Howdy folks, Nathan here, and I have a 2-year update on this, basically my kid's 2016 Nissan Leaf S. Now, you might be asking yourselves, well, why are we bothering with doing an update on a car that's, frankly not that interesting? Well, there's a very good reason for that, and that's because I've done several other videos featuring this car, and many of you guys are probably wondering right about now, what's a really economical way to get around town? Especially if you have an old, used electric car. What are the pros and cons? Well, I'm gonna cover some of that because I've had this car now for just about 2 years, and in that time, I've learned many things. And I will say, more positive than negative, but there definitely are both. Initially, this vehicle had a greater range. However, things change in time when it comes to electric vehicles, and we'll cover that in just a second. Now, I bought this vehicle for just over $9,000, and at the time it had around 30,000 miles on it. 2 years later, about 50,000 miles on it. So let's talk about the economics of a vehicle like this. Originally, it had, I believe, a 90-something mile range when new. When I bought it, it had just under 90 miles as a regular maximum range. And since I've had it, it's put 20,000 miles on it, it's now showing in the low to mid 80s as its maximum range. That's degradation. And that's one of the issues that you get, especially with these older electric vehicles. You will lose range over time, especially if you abuse the battery, and I have abused the battery. I've driven this vehicle in cold weather, really cold weather, sub-freezing weather, and its range was crap. And then I've driven it in extremely hot weather as well. Once again, bad range. And it's bad for the batteries. These are air-cooled batteries. They're not powered or heated, I should say, by a heat pump. They're not regulated the same way a lot of modern EVs are, and that does push that degradation that much further. Now, over time, other than the tires, the only other thing I've had to do is pay about $100 for some basic maintenance, basic maintenance. Like people went over the car and looked at the air conditioner, which isn't working particularly well. It doesn't blow cold, and I don't want to replace it because I'm cheap. But I put it up against all the other vehicles I've owned. Over the course of 2 years, I'm spending hundreds, if not even thousands of dollars for maintenance and maintenance fees and what have you, and this car doesn't require any of that. I just replaced the windshield wiper fluid, which my daughter uses all the time. But that's it. I haven't had to do anything else. No oil changes, no transmission fluid, none of that stuff. I replaced the filter on my own, which is, by the way, a lot cheaper than having somebody do it for you. But what about putting up this car against, let's say, a Nissan Versa, a regular gas vehicle that Nissan builds, of course, that gets remarkably good gas mileage? Nissan Versa, the current version, let's say its average is around 35 miles per gallon combined. Let's just say at $5 a gallon, you're going to put in 9 gallons, let's just say. 9. Okay, $45 for 1 week of driving, which is about what it is, right? All right. So then $45 for the next week. Well, that's $90. Once you get to the end of the month, that's $180 worth of gasoline that you've had to put into your vehicle. Okay. This car, as it currently sits at my regular house, and I don't charge during peak hours, so I try to watch my budget, but I do follow it carefully, has cost me approximately $40 per month to keep this vehicle full of electricity. That's a lot cheaper than a gas car. Now, that same Nissan Versa will have no problems driving from here to Los Angeles or to Las Vegas or really anywhere else that's long, more than, say, 50 miles. This vehicle can't do that easily. You have to stop and charge and stop and charge. Now, fortunately, there is a little trick that this car has, which is something that I think is pretty cool. And I'm going to pop the front and show you guys one of the things that I really like. You are not able to charge a lot of these older cars on a fast charger. However, this one does have Chadmo. There's Chadmo. Say hi, Chadmo. Now this is a fast charger that Nissan was one of the early adopters of. And unfortunately, not a lot of people are using it. They're using other versions of it, which is far more popular, which works with your J1772 port, and then there's an extra port below. That's kind of the modern fast charger. Some people still are using this, fortunately. The cool thing is, if you need it, you can still find it here in Colorado. Actually, right here in Boulder, there was a place where I was able to charge this car up in less than 20 minutes, and it was almost completely empty. It was on a cold winter day, which was great. That cost me a lot more money, by the way. Using public chargers is very expensive by comparison. Still cheaper than gas. The problem is, when you use fast charging too often, once again, you're going to screw up your battery. So between using it in the wrong climates, overcharging it, or charging it often using fast chargers, that can severely damage your battery's ability to hold a charge. In other words, major degradation. I know some people who have a 30 kilowatt hour battery and can only get about 50 or even less miles out of that car because they've been fast charging it and using it in cold conditions and overcharging it. Modern electric vehicles, just slightly newer than the Nissan Leaf, the old one, are far better at managing battery power. And the reason why is because they're actually using intelligence to manage that power. Over time, I suspect it'll get even better. But the trade-off really is there. In a couple years, this car's battery is not going to hold the charge it currently holds now. And right now, it's already lost 2 bars out of 12. According to Nissan, if I lose X amount of bars, I believe it's either 3 or 4 bars, then it's still covered under warranty just for the next couple years. That means that they'll either repair or replace the battery. However, by the time I actually go in there and I'm low on that charge, I can almost guarantee you it'll be past the warranty date. And that goes true for a lot of other vehicles out there. So Nissan Leafs are very cheap to get, even right now, even in today's economy. However, you have to keep in mind the fact that you are going to lose range, especially compared to some of the more modern vehicles out there that compete with it. On the other side of it though, if you have a short commute, it's so much cheaper to drive this. One final thing I wanted to tell you before I leave. When we bring this home and when my kid's not using it, both my wife and I drive it all around our community, I should say, all the time, to the grocery store, to the bookstore, to the movies. And it's saving us a ton of money because, as you very well know, gas is extremely expensive. So this is a little bit of a conversation between you and I. I wanted to give you that 2-year update on the vehicle. I hope I covered enough points for you guys to decide whether or not you want to get yourself a used electric vehicle. There are better choices out there. Honestly, I wanted a Chevy Bolt over this, but it was a little too expensive out of my price range, but it has a much better range. Although this one doesn't have the same former issues as that one, right? All right, guys, thanks for joining me at TFL EV. I'll see you guys next time.